Hello and welcome to Industry Spotlight with Creative First. Our guest today is Supriya Yarlagadda, producer, writer, actor, and executive director at Annapurna Studios Private Limited. Supriya, it's a pleasure having you today.
Thank you so much, Lovita. Thank you.
You come from a film family and you've worn many hats. As an actor, producer, studio executive, what has been the constant guiding principle in your journey?
That's a big question, lofty question. I think that because I do come from a big legacy, a strong, a legacy that is I'm third generation. I think it is clearly how my grandfather, Mr. Akkineni Nageshwara, had set down his journey and a lot of learnings from there. And he just braved it. He took the risks, and he always believed that if you feel it's right, if you feel something's right, just keep doing it, and results, whatever they may, will follow. So I think, yes, that's been partly some of the things. I mean, I would say something that's worked for me over the years. Overcoming the fear, overcoming all the doubt. It's just saying, does it feel right? So I think, yes, that's probably a good thing to start with.
The MPA Economic Contribution Report highlights the creative industries as engines of growth. From your perspective in Telugu cinema and the industry at large, how is that playing out today?
I think there is no doubt that Telugu cinema is finally being recognized, seen, and it's kind of, I think it's lifted off from just the Telugu land for sure. Now, how we approach the industry is probably, I would say, the largest in India. Telugu in film industry is the largest in India, and ideas of it being regional, etc., are long gone. There's lots to be done. We are still a very disorganized fraternity, like most film fraternities, I would like to think. But we are at a place where I don't think you cannot consider, the Telugu industry needs to be considered in India at every point, at every stage. We are giving out the largest magnus opus films. The number of films is probably the largest. When you consider that in terms of language, how many Telugu speaking people, but we are also approaching it from a space that our film is so commercially rooted in many ways that we're able to access all languages, all audience, all over the world. So yes, for sure, there's been a takeoff in the last few years, and films like RRR have just catapulted us in many ways. I think now it's reaching out and getting serious. Does that help?
Yes, absolutely. Supriya, the Prime Minister's vision is to make India the global content hub of, India to be the content hub of the world. How do you think we can get there?
We need to get serious about it. We need to get, because I think there is no doubt that films and the film industry are constantly one of the largest soft powers. We need to take soft power into clear logistical power, not just soft power. Yes, the faces, the stars, the lights, the glam is always going to be there, and it will lead us. It will definitely be what kind of leads us to where we need to go. But logistically, to be a brand, we need to have strong policy, strong regulation, and very, very strong government support. Waves has been an initiative by the government this year. It was very big. But events like Waves, they do take years for these forums to actually lead to business. However, for that to happen for India, India needs to be an ecosystem where it is the easiest to make a film. If we can do that, we will be, we can make cinema our brand to invite the rest of the world to look at us. That's, you have to make, we have to look like we are the easiest place to make movies. I think it's as simple as that, as an idea, but it's extremely difficult to get all the stakeholders in to make that happen.
Yes. And I'm sure as a collective fraternity, if that were to happen, what would be some of the immediate policies that you would consider for ease of doing business or the ease of making a film in India?
I think a separate, completely separate wing or ministry that would be purely for film, because I think whether it is making location friendly, logistic friendly, registration of companies. Today, if we need to still make a movie, we need to hire somebody local to as a manager or as an executive producer, which is all very good. You need people, but we are not easily visible to someone overseas when somebody wants to consider India. So I think the points would be, you would need to understand, to have a body, whether it is in the form of a government body along with the industry, to have some kind of an apex body in India that joins all the apex bodies of the various regions and states, and then kind of has a government leg to it that drives this mechanism to ensure smooth business cross borders, smooth content making locally, and then making ease of business in terms of distribution, taxation, regulation. I mean, today the biggest battle we are fighting is piracy, the biggest battle. And we are knocking every door possible to get us some enforcement. We have regulation, but in a country like India, it may seem like, oh, film to sabki hai. It's everybody's. So what's the big deal if I watch it on my phone? But if we look at the footfalls that are the numbers that have gone from theaters, and it's very easy. Everybody will have an argument saying that, oh, they've gone to OTT or they're watching it, but that's not true. That is not true when you kind of put data down. There are many people today. Their primary sources, they watch their films on phone, on pirated websites, and they don't even realize that it's theft.
Right. On that note, how can content be best protected in a digital world through effective content protection measures?
So I think there are 3, 4, 5 steps, like we've been constantly saying. One is at a producer level, all the care that the producer can take on regarding his content, his or her content, but that is only up to the point of distribution. Once it is going to distribution, you need to have all the players who are distributing our film now, primarily all the digital service providers, to really, because they have become our partners in distributing. At the moment, we are unable to take our films to the world without getting their keys, without paying for their services. So if that's the case, they have to be 100% secure in every way. Then the other thing is, there are two forms clearly of where piracy comes from. Either it is the 4Ks that come from the various servers, or it is actual physical recording. Physical recording, there needs to be stringent measures at the exhibition points. It is the responsibility of the exhibitors. They are taking a big chunk of the revenue that's coming from a film. They have to be partners in this process and ensure that at that point there is no physical recording. Now, that can be technology, it can be through technology. There are various measures now. It can be through actual enforcement of what happens, and then it's awareness. Put it out there saying that it is theft. It's clearly theft and you will be punished. People will, and again, provide the entertainment at reasonable costs. See, if I'm going to expect a regular family to pay very large price to go to a theater, you are only again, we are again shooting ourselves in the foot. So it is good pricing at whether it is F&B at the theaters, and whether it is ticketing prices from our end. We have to ensure that it is a good family experience. The theaters are kept alive and solid.
Right. How important are production infrastructure and studios for the growth of regional content?
Without them, we will not be able to make the number of films we are, and we are already at a shortage. See, because most facilities are mom and pop shops, they come up based on need of the hour. If there's demand, somebody will put up a facility in their house or wherever, which is all fair, which you need to have all kinds of facilities available. But if you see in history, from when films were primarily shot only in studios, and now films have moved from being physically shot in studios but requiring a lot of other work to happen in studios. The technologies in the studios, pre-production and the post-production is with the studios. And Now, you can't take actors out onto the streets and shoot because everybody's got a phone. So it's again protection. So security, all these things. The infrastructure in India as far as studios has seen a decline, and there are very few serious players in the business, extremely few serious players in the business. The largest studios, which were always in the city limits and all that, in terms of real estate, etc., have changed the way they look. But it is also extremely unviable business as a business proposition to build a studio today. So, who does that? Where are the incentives from the governments to maintain studios? To
Yes.
keep, like, for example, if we got industry status, which we do have, but we are not defined. What does it mean? Should we be getting better rates of electricity? Should we be taxed differently? Should our municipality taxes be different? Because it's not small patches of land. Studios have to take big, expensive, large real estate to establish themselves. So governments and regulation have to help in some way to see. The thing is, in a country like India, we can't go on saying subsidizers. We can't say subsidizers. I mean, India's got way more things to subsidize than the film industry. And I think the hope of the film industry drives them. The passionate filmmakers will say, listen, I'll go make my film anywhere. I'll shoot it on a road, I'll shoot it on the studio, I'll shoot it where I can. That's how filmmakers thrive, survive, arrive. So I think that to give ease of business, understanding that a creative industry is extremely different from a manufacturing industry or a service industry, and tailoring some provisions, I think would make a huge difference.
There's so much truth in what you just said. Many countries across the world, you see shooting on the streets.
Yes.
And, that's not a boring exercise at all. Even for tourists, they love it. And I think it encourages a culture of just creativity. And, at the end of the day, not only does the place benefit as a filming destination, but also as a tourist destination, because people watch that destination, say, wow, let's go there.
True. I mean, and in India, you have to, like, if you want to shoot anywhere, the permission process is laborious.
Can you elaborate what that means?
Meaning that, that it doesn't come as one stop. If I want to shoot, I just can't go onto a website and get a permission for a date. And it's not that I'm going to get the permission if I apply day before yesterday or a week before that I'm going to get it. I have to do that. Then I have to get. I mean, India is a complex country. It's a complex ecosystem. So I have to get police permissions. I have to get every department, every area. For example, our heritage is under archaeological sites. There's central archaeology. There is state archaeological sites. Then there is central national highways. There is state highways. There is dams, which are, conservation areas, which are national, state. Each one is under their own, under their own authority. Now, how does it now for a filmmaker to go? I'm thinking I want a location to shoot. It's extremely difficult to navigate this ecosystem and say I'm going to get a permission.
So, Supriya, one great news is, in the last 3 years, the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting has set up the India Cine Hub. The India Cine Hub's role is to actually make filming in India very, very easy. What they've effectively done, at least from a central ministry point of view, highlighted some great points of railways, especially ASI, very, defense, etc. So all one has to do is apply to the India Cine Hub. And even if there is no support at the state level, there are nodal officers that they work with at the state level that help with your permissions, and the timelines are pretty competitive.
No, this
And
is extremely. See, I'm a film industry person. I
yes,
I don't know about.
yes, and
Uh,
it's amazing that they also sometimes facilitate with incentives if it's a co-production film that you want to make, they help. So it's a great setup, and maybe through you we can spread that word, but it's a
we
great
have to get
initiative by
more
the
people
government.
on board this.
Yes, yes. The Economic Contribution Report by the MPA mentions employment, skills, and value chain expansion beyond just box office numbers. What are
Yes.
your views on this?
So I feel that as long as skill and labor is restricted in the industry, we are not going to be able to ensure that these benefits move along. I mean, you ask any kid, they would love to work in film. How do they get in here? How do they navigate? How do they find a job? How does a lightman find a job being a lightman? How does a production boy find his job here? Highly unionized, which is very, very restrictive. I think there has to be extreme. The Competition Commission of India has come down very strongly on certain clauses in certain functionings of the unions, but I think it is a daily challenge for producers. It's a daily challenge for workers within. They're not, whether you look at it from both perspectives. The workers need to be safe. They need to have fair wages. They need to have safety. They need to have insurance. There's high risk jobs associated, and where are we skilling? We need to skill. Where does a fighter get skilled? Where does he get trained? Where does a dancer get trained? Now, if they are dancers who are fabulous dancers, just kids dancing, how do they get into the industry?
Yes.
They are not able to get into the industry. Why these restrictions? There is so much talent in India. And it's interesting because the health of a creative industry is dependent on the level of talent. And we are restricting talent from entering
Yes.
because we are functioning on models which were set up 50, 60, 70 years ago, and that cannot function. So economic benefits reaching down, I think we are the highest paid industry. Even if you look at daily wages, we are the highest paid industry. We surpass all the regulatory pay scales that governments have set up, primarily because we don't have hours. So of course you should pay. We don't have set hours. We don't have set days. We don't have set rules. You're not going to the same place to work every day. You don't have an employer per se. For a long period of time. With all these nuances and the nature of the industry being such, there has to be policy from the government and the industry to ensure that skill is not restricted. That is a battle today that we are fighting, or I wouldn't say we are fighting, but I think it's a battle that it's something that we all need to overcome. I think we cannot depend on the one guy who is going to rise above the 10 guys as the best worker. You have to have 10
Yes.
guys who are trained, and then the two guys who are excelling, who will be able to rise up the ladder. You can't say these two guys who are better are still going to get paid the same wage as all 10.
Yes.
They are not going to be incentivized enough to keep dreaming and keep climbing.
Yes.
Mentorship has to be stronger. There used to be a time where a director or from a producer, you would have 5 new directors come out, 5 new DOPs come out. We are missing that.
Yes.
We are missing that because we are not skilling.
Right. Supriya, what do you see as the biggest opportunity for Indian content reaching national and global audiences? I know we're already there, but what is the next big opportunity and what should be done for that?
I think to take being, right now we are being taken seriously. The Indian film industry is being taken seriously. The Indian film industry now has to start underlining quality, quality and consistency. Because I think when you go and say, I want to watch an Indian movie, you can get the best and you can get something which is everywhere in the world, of course. But I think if we brand, see, for example, what Korea was able to do with their dramas, K dramas, they've just been able to do it very simply with saying, we will be truly honest with what we do, what we like. And I think the diversity of Indian stories is such that we don't need to ape anyone. And we have the depth of the storytelling because you're telling the stories from every economic, the I would say the diversity is so large that you can make movies for everyone in the world. Now, I think that, for example, what Sikya films, Guneet, and they have all been able to do. They have all been able to cross over that. But they've been doing that for 20 years. They started doing that, shaving off, taking a film like Lunchbox, having a partnership with the French government. I mean,
Yes.
they've been doing things, but it's always been until they got the Oscar. It's like saying you're parallel.
Yes.
So now the idea that parallel, commercial, all these things need to come together where the health of the industry,
Yes.
because see, it's not easy making a movie, Lohita. It's every day is war to
Yes.
make a movie.
Yes.
So I think if the war is made, if the battlefield is made more even, if I can find soldiers easier,
Yes.
and I have rest spots, and I have support.
Yes.
Then I think that, and we have to say brand India. We have to say brand India. We just can't put up Mr. Shah Rukh Khan's picture and say he's the Indian film industry. We can't do that for much longer. We can't continue to do that. We can't take Rajmouli Garu and say, we can't take Mr. Rajmouli and these people who have independently surpassed all the barriers that exist and have reached there and say that, okay, now we're just going to use them.
Yes.
It doesn't work. We have to get the engine itself moving in that direction.
Yes.
We have to use them as our as our brand ambassadors and say we move forward with them, but there is a very robust engine that is existent. We can't just posture. We have to build the pieces. The pieces are regulation. The pieces are, good policy. The pieces are infrastructure, and the pieces are the HR, the people behind it. If you build all of that, we'll get there.
With streaming and theatrical release models both evolving, how are you thinking about your next projects in terms of expansion?
So I think dependencies post-COVID became extremely lopsided. I think we have not done justice to our theaters. We have built our dependency entirely on platforms, streaming. Of course, also our cinema is going deeper. It's going to people now. I think India is very clearly defined as people who don't go to theaters and people who go to theaters post-COVID. Now are we going to take the same content and give it both ways and say, okay, now we're going to try and get a piece of the pie? But I think that dialogue is matured after 5 years of COVID. It's matured. Now there is a very strong uh, uh, idea on what gets very well consumed on OTT as home watching, as singular watching. Then there is a very clear understanding of what gets viewed, what gets its appreciation as collective viewership and theater watching. And I think they both will always coexist. However, how we decide on what, see, because I think long format viewing requires way more depth into character building, way more depth and dependency on writing, way more. While theatrical has way more dependency on visibility of the talent, the actors, the stars, the directors, the commerciality, and the big the commerciality. When we say, now there's a very big question that came up in one of the forums recently, saying, does commerciality mean just large span? That's it's VFX and out of the out of the world kind of cinema. But I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's commerciality of emotion. And that there is that. There is, how do you tell a story collectively and ensure that emotion percolates when you're watching it with 100 people, versus what is the emotion that percolates when you're singularly watching something, which is going to be more successful where? I don't think there is a rule book for it, like there is no rule book for making any kind of film or a show. And I think that experimentation will continue, and always the outlier will always shock us. Anything that is going to follow some rhythm may be safe, may reach success, but it's always the outliers in creativity that will shock us and stun us.
Supriya, it has been such a pleasure hearing your thoughts on the growth of cinema content and, of course, India's global reach in terms of, who we represent. And of course, all your views on the investments shaping its value chain. Thank you for your valuable insights, and we look forward to watching your continued contributions to Indian cinema.
Thank you, Lohita. Thank you very much.